today to commemorate our colleague, Betty Levinstein, who worked here as a librarian at Onondaga Community College for 25 years. And we thought to honor her memory, she passed away last July, by introducing this new map of the world. It had been Betty's idea originally to have a map of the world so that students could see the world before them. The old map had, since the old map had gotten old and outdated and faded, we decided to do this. And it is, we feel it's representative of Betty because she was a world traveler. Tracy Lee is going to read the plaque, and then we'll share our remembrances of Betty.
Okay. This is dedicated to the memory of Betty Levinstein, OCC librarian from 1976 to the year 2000. She was a world traveler, wise and beloved colleague. Spring 2011. I remember Betty as someone who, when she liked something, she was very enthusiastic about it, and when she didn't like something, she was just as enthusiastic about it, and she would let you know. She was a wonderful, well-learned person, and we will really miss her.
Oh, I'd like to say a few words about my memories of Betty. My name is Jerry Wright, and I worked in the reference department with Betty for quite a few years. I first met Betty actually before I ever came to OCC. I met her in 1983 at a meeting of Librarians Unlimited, which was an umbrella organization of various types of libraries. Then, in 1987, I was very fortunate to get a job here as an adjunct librarian. And that's when I really got to know Betty. She was a wonderful colleague. She had a great sense of humor. She was always willing to help me out if I had a reference question that I couldn't quite figure out. The other day I had a conversation with Frank Doble, who's currently the head of reference, and he had a memory he shared with me of Betty. He told me that Betty would often use the phrase tempus fugit, which means time flies, or when I looked it up they said more correctly, time flees. I thought a little bit about tempus fugit, and I thought about the meaning it would have for Betty. Betty always was busy. She never let any grass grow beneath her feet. She was always busy with her family, her friends, her career, and her volunteer work. In fact, I recall at one point Betty got an award as Woman of the Year, I believe from the Post-Standard. OCC Library loved Betty. Our staff always enjoyed her. She was so friendly, so bright, and I know that Betty loved OCC. In fact, I received a note from her son, Richard, after Betty's death, and he noted that OCC was one of the centerpieces of Betty's life, and I thought that was a wonderful way to put it. He also said in his note, and I quote, "The OCC group has been so supportive, and we just recently heard about the world map being put up in Coulter Libary for my mom. Thank you for keeping her memory alive in such a wonderful way." Thank you.
And I didn't know Betty very well, but I was very, very impressed by her elegance, her age-defying attitude in life, her tremendous intelligence, and open-mindedness. She was a gracious hostess to the adjunct librarians, and she was also friends with a very close friend of my family's, Elsa Sontheimer, and they had been friends for as long as I know in Syracuse region. So she was a pleasure to know and a pleasure to work with.
Coleman,
I came to work here during the day, just as Betty was retiring, so I didn't get to work with her. But I did get to spend time with her socially at luncheons, and she's invited us to her home. And I remember her as a warm, gracious, and witty person. She had lots of interesting stories to share with us about her travels. And I just think that Betty was a great asset to the Coulter Libary family.
Gretchen Roberts. Betty and I came to OCC in the late 70s. We were hired as adjuncts, the first adjuncts in the library. I had just graduated from SU's library school, now in School of Information Studies, but Betty came with tremendous experience. The most recent, at that time, she had taught at Maria Regina College here in Syracuse reference skills, and then had taught both reference and cataloging at Syracuse University in the graduate school. She was just great to work with, as everybody has said. And when she retired in 2000, it left a hole for all of us, I know. Computers weren't Betty's favorite thing. She could use them, but she much preferred going to the printed source, whether it was a book or a map. And I remember that one of the things she always said to us was, you know, the power can go out, but she said, I still got my books, and I still got my map. So.
I worked here with Betty, and she was a grand lady and a very professional library from the old school. And I always remember here, this time at Passover, she always brought in matzah and coconut. I always think of her at Passover. Thank you.
Forward to the days when Betty came into work. She was a traditional librarian, as Jeannie said, and she was very organized and knew where to find everything. But she was really fun to work with. She was gracious and wise and witty, very accomplished in her life, but she wasn't at all proud. And I don't remember anything negative about Betty. Bad things would find their way into funny stories. So she was our treasure and a role model for us, and we remember her fondly. So I want to thank everyone for celebrating.
Hi, this is Rob O'Boyle, and I thought I would add to the little talk we had. Everybody's back and having a party now, but to point out, we still have a piece of the card catalog, which Betty liked to work with right here in the lobby area when we had a card catalog. And what I remember most about Betty was her reader service and helping students and wanting to get to the resources, always at the catalog, helping people. So we've kept a piece of the catalog. And I think this area, with the map on the other side of this wall and our little dedication to Betty, will always be Betty's spot. It's a nice bright spot with the big tall windows. And it's been a very nice event. Thank you.